Dear everyone, thank you for inviting me to open this side event. As you know, carbon capture and storage is a priority for the Norwegian government. And with the knowledge we have today, widespread CCS will be necessary to meet the climate targets, also to do it at the lowest possible cost. Norway has strong technical competence in the field of CCS. Since 2005, the government has continuously invested in what has now become a strong CCS research community. For decades, the CO2 projects on Sleipner and Snøhvit have demonstrated safe carbon storage on the Norwegian continental shelf. Plans for a full-scale project at Mongstad have also provided important learning. Not least, the Norwegian Research Council and Gassnova have been valuable partners. And last year, the government launched Longship. This is the largest climate project in Norwegian industry ever, and the first project to integrate a complete full-scale CCS chain. From individual CO2 emitters to a flexible transport solution and an open access storage facility. This infrastructure will pave the way for new projects to use the storage facility in Norway. The support agreement that applies to the transport and storage part of Longship has been designed to provide incentives to incorporate new, both domestic and international projects. Longship will reduce emissions from Norwegian industry, nurture technology development, and create jobs. But the project's underlying objective is to speed up the development and deployment of CCS technology internationally. The measure of Longship's success is the extent to which it contributes to developing CCS as an efficient tool for climate change mitigation. This means benefiting subsequent projects through knowledge transfer, technology development, and access to existing storage. This will contribute to reducing costs and thus to lower the threshold for establishing new CCS projects. If carbon capture and storage is to become an efficient climate policy instrument, subsequent facilities must be established in Europe and globally. It is very important that we act now. The critical mass of CCS needs to be achieved within this decade, and we need more players on the field or additional Longships. Accelerating CCS Technologies, or ACT, is doing a brilliant job working towards this goal. The name is, by the way, strikingly self-explanatory and reveals high ambitions. 3 calls have been launched since its startup. The 2 first calls produced 20 projects, while the 3rd call closed in March this year and has resulted in 37 project proposals. Established by 10 partners in 2016, ACT now counts 16 partners. In this way, ACT responds to the need for expanding the reach of CCS worldwide, collaborate across borders, share knowledge, and contribute to technology transfer and development. I am very pleased to see that so many new partners have registered interest and decided to join the program. And new partners are always welcome to join. The partners and projects are proving ACT worthy of its name. It does accelerate CCS technologies, as demonstrated by projects being presented here today. Also, the acronym reminds us that it is now time to act. And that is what we are doing through the Longship project here in Norway. And by that, I want to wish everyone good luck with this event. Thank you so much for your attention.
Hello, my name is Dr. Jennifer Wilcox, Acting Assistant Secretary for the Office of Fossil Energy and Carbon Management at the U.S. Department of Energy. I'm honored to join Minister Bru in welcoming you to this meeting on accelerating CCS technologies, or the ACT initiative. All of us know that the climate crisis is a global crisis, and one nation cannot respond to it alone. It requires all of us to take the threat seriously and do what we need to meet the challenge and address the crisis, not only in our own countries, but also across the global community. And that means that we have to cooperate and collaborate with each other to advance solutions, particularly technology solutions that will drive the critical energy transition needed to tackle the world's gravest crisis and most pressing challenge. CCUS is indispensable to this effort. The good news is that while much more still needs to be done, we've seen some real progress on CCUS over the past decade. For example, in their recent CCUS status report, the Global Carbon Capture and Storage Institute noted that in 2020, there were 65 commercial CCS projects at various stages of development worldwide, a 33% increase over 2019. And at the same time, we're seeing movement on a number of exciting CCUS approaches and projects. For example, at the Department of Energy, we're exploring the expansion of CCUS beyond the energy sector to help decarbonize industrial sectors as well. And we're leveraging work that we've been doing on CCUS to help advance carbon dioxide removal strategies such as direct air capture. Meeting net zero targets will take combined efforts of both deep decarbonization in addition to carbon removal from the atmosphere in order to deal with some of the toughest to decarbonize sectors today, such as aviation, agriculture, shipping, and some industries. The solution is not an either or. In order to meet climate goals, we need to do both. Mitigating CO2, avoiding its emissions into the atmosphere to begin with, in addition to actively removing it from the accumulated pool of CO2 in the atmosphere. And it's not just our work that will help to make the difference. We're also seeing new groundbreaking efforts getting underway around the world. The Longship project in Norway is a great example. We're entering an exciting and critical time for CCUS, where global collaborations will be more important than ever. The ACT initiative and the consortium leading it represent the kind of international partnership needed to advance these critical technologies and win the race against climate change. And we at the Department of Energy are honored to work with you on this vital effort.
Thank you, Jennifer. My name is Christopher Robin Haug, and I will take us through a very exciting program with insights from the latest development in CCUS. First, we're going to hear from Gassnova. Gassnova is the Norwegian state enterprise for CCS under the Ministry of Petroleum and Energy. Gassnova is set up to stimulate CCS development, and they manage different initiatives in the innovation system for CCS, a research, development and demonstration program, CLIMIT, and an industrial technology center for carbon capture, TCM. Gassnova is also following up the Longship project on behalf of the government. CEO Roy Vardheim has many years of experience with international industries, and he has also been the CEO of TCM. He will now tell us more about Gassnova's involvement in Longship.
Dear all, thank you for the introduction and thank you for the opportunity to speak at this event. To quote the Prime Minister of Norway, Longship is a milestone for the Norwegian government's industrial and climate commitment. The project will cut emissions, facilitate development of new technology and thus new jobs. Longship will remove CO2 from industrial sources, transport it by ship and store it deeply under the seabed. Gassnova has coordinated the planning of the project, and our current role is to follow up the project on behalf of the government. Trust, solidarity, and the ability to cooperate are all key success factors for any project of this complexity and size. The Longship project has over years had broad political support, crossing basically all party lines. It has also involved major public and private stakeholders, which have all been extremely flexible in terms of swift decision making. There have been some significant hurdles that needed to be passed before Longship could be launched and become a reality. In addition to the obvious technical challenges, a new business model had to be developed, but also regulatory issues like negotiating the amendments to the London Protocol regulating the transport of CO2 across borders. Longship is not only one-of-a-kind CCS project, Longship is also a platform for innovation. The experience from Longship will openly be shared and fed back into the innovation system for further development of CCS. By sharing our experience and knowledge openly, we aim to contribute to the reduction of barriers and cost. Through the research and development program CLIMIT, operated in cooperation with the Research Council of Norway, we support projects progressing CCS. Several of the partners and technology vendors in the Longship project started their CCS journey with climate support. Technology Center Mongstad, or TCM, located at the west coast of Norway, is one of the world's largest centers for testing and developing technologies for carbon capture. Through our ownership of TCM, Gassnova and our industrial partners get valuable insight from test campaigns and access to world-class competence on carbon capture. The capture technologies selected by the industrial partners in Longship are all tested and verified at TCM. The center is constantly being developed, and recently they opened the test area for emerging capture technologies. As the theme of this event says, cooperation is the key driver for deployment of CCS. All of Gassnova's initiatives are based on cooperation, international cooperation and private-public cooperation. The industry will not make CCS happen without governmental support, not only financial support, but also support related to knowledge of regulatory and commercial challenges. Governments around the world will not reach their climate goals without industrial solutions and their drive to make their solutions better and more efficient. Together, we can develop CCS so this becomes one of the efficient tools for climate change mitigation. Please don't hesitate to contact us if you would like to learn more about the Longship project, TCM, or the Norwegian CCS model. Thank you for your attention.
Børre Jacobsen is the first managing director of Northern Lights joint venture. He has been in the energy business for almost 30 years. After graduating with a finance degree from Texas A&M University, he joined Shell in 1992, where he has held various finance, commercial, and management roles. Now we are looking forward to a fascinating insight into the Northern Lights project.
Hello, my name is Børre Jacobsen, and I am the Managing Director of Northern Lights joint venture. Thank you very much for this opportunity to talk to you about Northern Lights and what we are up to. Northern Lights will deliver CO2 transport and storage as a service and includes receipt, transportation, and permanent storage of CO2 in a reservoir in the northern North Sea. Let's look into this in more detail. Northern Lights intends to enter into agreements with industrial CO2 emitters in Europe and Norway. They will be responsible for capturing CO2 from their emissions, and then we can take delivery of that CO2. Transport and offload that CO2 at our terminal in West Norway. From the terminal, we will pump the CO2 100 kilometers offshore and inject the CO2 2,600 meters below the seabed in a suitable geological formation for permanent storage. We will develop safe geological storage together with a ship-based transportation solution, making it possible for any company across Europe to capture the CO2 and send it to us for permanent storage, breaking the link between the source and the sink. Initially, we will have a capacity to handle 1.5 million tons of CO2 per year, and we are scheduled to be operational by 2024. But our ambition is to increase that capacity to 5 million tons per year through additional phases of development. And this is real. We have already started construction. We will now show you a short video from the construction of our onshore facilities in Øygarden in Western Norway. source carbon capture and storage on a large scale is a new model. But companies have been injecting CO2 into water, oil, and gas-filled formation for almost 5 decades. Equinor, a Northern Lights partner, has 2 decades of experience with storing CO2 in offshore locations at Sleipner and Snøhvit. Another partner, Shell, is involved in 2 of the world's largest CO2 storage projects, Quest in Canada and Gorgon in Australia. Before injection, wells are tested to ensure the right geological conditions. The key is to identify the right place to inject and contain the CO2, which is trapped in macroscopic rock pores, similar to how oil and gas have been trapped in subsurface reservoirs for millions of years. Close monitoring using seismic data is used to refine theoretical models and check that the CO2 is moving within the rock space as expected. This is known as plume migration. In Snøhvit, for example, plume monitoring shows that some of the CO2 is trapped in the rock spaces, some is dissolved in the brine, and some is mineralized into rock. Norway has some of the best geological conditions in Europe to develop subsea CO2 storage capacity, with an estimated total storage capacity of around 80 billion tons. Northern Lights completed the drilling of a test well in March 2020, which, as we expected, confirmed a suitable reservoir for CO2 storage. The data acquired through analyzing the core showed the presence of good quality sandstone in the reservoir, and importantly, the existing of a sealing layer. And as part of Northern Lights' commitment to external collaboration and open innovation, the well datasets are being freely shared with external parties. We will also use an innovative and versatile ship-based system for transportation of CO2. Our specially adapted ships can travel flexibly between any port, keeping costs as low as possible to help gradually develop and build our business. As part of the first phase of operations, we are building 2 dedicated CO2 carriers, each with a cargo size of 7,500 cubic meters and a length of 130 meters. We have adapted the ship's designs used for transporting liquefied petroleum gas by adding a liquefied CO2 carriage system and insulation to keep the CO2 in a liquid state. This solution has the advantage of using designs that shipyards are familiar with, while potentially setting a new standard for CO2 shipping on coastal trading routes. And work is also ongoing to look into larger ships, which can further help to bring about cost reductions. The CO2 volumes in the shipments must be accurately measured and reported to the authorities, tracking the captured and stored volumes as a proof of sequestration. These protocols are well established for the LNG shipping trade, and it will be adapted for CO2 operations. To keep emissions down, the ship will be as efficiently as possible. Hull forms will be optimized for the route and regular maneuvering profiles established. The primary fuel for the ships will be liquefied natural gas. Other technologies, such as wind assistance and air lubrication, will be installed to also reduce the carbon intensity. For now, there is a significant risk by offering open access cross-border implementation of such a network. Northern Light is enabling the first European full-scale CCS value chain, paving the way for cost reductions and scale-up of similar future projects. Cross-border transportation of CO2 will also require bilateral agreements between the states involved. And following a historic vote in the Norwegian Parliament, the Norwegian government announced its funding decision for Northern Lights in December 2020. The funding decision demonstrates the Norwegian government's strong support for the development of a CCS value chain. And further, in March, the Norwegian Ministry of Petroleum and Energy announced the approval of the plan for development, installation, and operation of the Northern Lights project. So we are investing, we are building. But will there be a market for CO2 transportation and storage solutions? The challenge facing us is at the highest level, how do we decarbonize our economy while at the same time maintaining industrial activity in Europe, with the jobs and value creation that comes with that activity? For the companies, the question is, what role should they play? And what is affordable? In Northern Lights, we benefit from owners, Equinor, Total, and Shell, that believes that carbon capture and storage will be a key element to reach emission targets, and they are prepared to invest. In the past year, the carbon price in Europe has increased significantly. But of course, how this will develop in the future is uncertain. Currently, the cost of emitting is lower than for carbon capture and storage. And hence, state support is required to get this industry going. In Northern Lights, we meet with many industrial companies that are keen to find solutions to their CO2 emissions. We have potential customers in several countries spanning many industrial sectors, which includes waste incineration, cement, steel and metals, refineries, chemicals and producers of ammonia, hydrogen, and power from natural gas, biomass and biofuel, and direct air capture. I think it's important that we notice that for many of these sectors, the emissions are not related to use of hydrocarbons, but rather an inherent result of the industrial processes themselves. We have signed memorandum of understanding with 11 companies representing different industries already. As part of these MOUs, the parties are looking at solutions for CO2 delivery, transport, and storage, including logistics, CO2 specifications, and a roadmap towards potential startup operations. Today, we are in negotiations with several of these to develop and agree a heads of terms, bringing us ever closer to the first commercial contract. Much more work remains to be done, but we are confident that our services will be needed and that commercial solutions will be found. Thank you for your attention.
Per Brevik has a master's degree in business administration from the Norwegian School of Business Administration from 1979. But since 1993, he has worked with alternative fuel developments in the cement industry. And he will tell us about Norcem's leading-edge carbon capture project.
Hello, I'm Per Brevik. I've been responsible for the development of the carbon capture project at Norcem Brevik. Norcem is part of Heidelberg Cement, one of the biggest building material producers in the world. The Brevik plant is located 170 kilometers south of Oslo. It was established more than 100 years ago and is a medium-sized cement production unit. Today, it produces 1.3 million tons of cement every year. But cement, the glue in concrete, we are among those emitting most CO2 every year. We are responsible for 6 to 8% of the total emissions every year. Therefore, if we want to stay in this picture, we have an obligation as industry to take measures to reduce the carbon footprint of our product. We have walked a long way. Actually, we started back in 2005. And from 2010, 2011, we have worked systematically with development of this project. We have gone step by step to develop and learn ourselves. During this period, we have done a lot of testing. Actually, we tested 4 different technologies at Brevik plant on our flue gas. In 2015, the Norwegian government launched the so-called Norwegian Full-Scale Carbon Capture Project. We were invited to be one of the capture projects together with a waste-to-energy plant in Oslo. It has been a complex and huge project, including a lot of research, development and testing. And the final report which was the basis for the political treatment and the discussions with the authorities, was delivered in November 2019. Yes, this is costly, but we are sure that the cost will go down with more experience and more competition. And we have been willing, on behalf of the industry and with the good funding from the Norwegian government, to take these first steps, that we have a process and a project going on to show this is possible. The Norwegian government launched Longship in September 2020. And the project was approved in Parliament in December the same year. We started construction in Brevik in January this year, and according to the schedule, the plant will be in operation during autumn 2024. Then we will be the first cement plant in the world with carbon capture. We are on schedule, we are optimistic. We will be the first in the row of cement plants with carbon capture, and we are proud to be the front runners in this process.
Jannicke Gerne Bjerkås is the CCS director in Fortum Oslo Varme, leading the carbon capture project at the waste to energy plant. She has various experience from management positions, and Bjerkås is a former officer with education from the Norwegian Air Force Academy, and she also holds a Master of Management from BI Norwegian Business School. And she will give us some insights into sustainable waste management with CCS.
Hi, my name is Jannicke Gerne Bjerkås, and I'm pleased to introduce you to Fortum Oslo Varme's carbon capture project here in Oslo, Norway. Fortum Oslo Varme is Norway's largest district heating company and the owner and operator of the country's largest waste incineration plant. We provide essential end treatment for residual waste. The excess heat from this process is used to produce electricity and district heating for the city of Oslo. Imagine a world where most of your waste is made into new products, and on top of that, the end treatment of your residual waste contributes to removing CO2 from the atmosphere. The world is drowning in waste, and poor waste handling is causing major emissions to soil, groundwater, and air. Did you know that 5% of the global greenhouse gas emissions comes from household waste alone? We need to reduce waste amounts, to stop landfilling waste, and to reuse and recycle as much as possible. We also need sustainable solutions for the remaining waste, the mixed or contaminated waste that we cannot or should not recycle. And waste to energy is the best solution for the actual residual waste. Our carbon capture project here in Oslo is the next step in a circular economy on the way to solve two major global problems: the waste problem and the climate problem. As part of the Norwegian Longship project, we are planning a large-scale carbon capture facility here at our waste-to-energy plant. We aim to capture and permanently store 400,000 tons of CO2 every year. This is 15% of Oslo's climate emissions and the single most important climate measure for the city to reach its climate goals. About 50% of the residual waste is biogenic, such as paper, organic textiles, and food scraps. This waste is part of the natural carbon cycle, and when these emissions are captured and stored, we are removing CO2 from the atmosphere, going carbon negative or climate positive. After we have captured the CO2, we will transport it in liquid form to the harbor of Oslo, 10 kilometers from our plant, using emission-free tank trucks. From there, Northern Lights will transport the CO2 to the western coast of Norway and store it permanently 3,000 meters below seabed. On our site in Oslo, we have successfully tested the technology on real flue gas. Our technology supplier, Shell, has full-scale experience with their amine, and we cooperate closely with our chosen EPC contractor, Technip Energies, to realize the world's first full-scale CCS project on a waste-to-energy plant. There are close to 500 waste-to-energy plants only in Europe, and we need many more globally to remove polluting landfills. With the learning from our project, we will contribute to establish carbon capture on waste-to-energy plants all over the world.
Sharing of knowledge and experience is an important part of our project. We closely cooperate with NGOs, academia and technology suppliers to accelerate development, and we share experience and knowledge with other plants in the Fortum Group, as well as Norwegian and European waste-to-energy actors. We have developed our project over several years during feasibility, concept and feed studies, and we have tested the technology for 9 months on our specific flue gas. By actively sharing the learning from our pilot plant and the knowledge gained from this successful test run, we will contribute to developing carbon capture on waste-to-energy plants all over the world.
Now, we have gathered a panel which will give us some insights into the latest industry developments and the importance of Longship for the industry. Samantha McCullough is the head of the CCUS unit at the Paris-based International Energy Agency. Her team provides leading analysis and insights on the development and deployment of carbon capture, utilization and storage technologies. Samantha is a lead author of several IEA publications, including the Energy Technology Perspectives special report on CCUS in clean energy transitions. We also have Torbjørg Klara Fossum, who currently holds the position as Vice President for Global CCS Solutions in Equinor. Equinor has the ambition to be the world's most carbon-efficient oil and gas producer, as well as driving innovation in offshore wind and renewables. They have developed their CCS capabilities through decades of technology development and 25 years of operational experience. In the panel is also Giv Brantenberg, who has since 2017 been in charge of Heidelberg Cement's business in Northern Europe, counting close to 5,000 employees in 7 countries. Heidelberg Cement is one of the world's largest manufacturers of building materials and has been contributing to progress for 150 years. Also in the panel is Dr. Fateme Rezazadeh, who is the Director of Global Blue H2 and CO2 Solutions in Air Products. She is currently leading the H2 and carbon capture, utilization and storage business development across Europe at Air Products from their base in London. Air Products develops, engineers, builds, owns and operates some of the world's largest industrial gas projects. Now let's dive right into the conversation. So we have here 3 important industry actors who have very interesting activities in CCS. Could you all just tell us briefly about your company's CCS initiatives and what you think that the launch of Longship means to your company in particular?
Absolutely. With our core strength as a leading industrial gases company and also a culture for product innovation, we are a global leader in developing solutions for carbon capture, for capturing CO2 from fossil fuel conversion before it gets to the atmosphere. Our carbon capture solutions are enriched with the operational experiences that we gain by operating facilities where we already capture, purify, and transport CO2. We have a world-class CO2 capture facility in the USA, in Port Arthur, in Texas, with a CO2 capacity of 1 million ton per annum, and it's been operational since 2014, and till to date successfully captured more than 6 million ton of CO2. And as a world-leading producer of hydrogen, Air Products is the first mover in bringing the hydrogen economy to scale, and in order to develop a cleaner future, with carbon capture being an essential element of it. And about the Longship project, of course, with its cross-border CO2 transport and also CO2 storage infrastructure, it is really providing us with opportunity across Europe to capture our CO2 and also being able to safely and permanently sequester it underground for a long time. And of course, this is an important and essential building block in order to realize the full development and deployment of carbon capture within Europe, and of course as a reference for the rest of the world.
Reducing our carbon footprint and increasing energy efficiency, these are central tasks for Cement management teams in all our countries and on all levels. And a large part of our investments and research efforts have been and will continue to be directed towards achieving this goal. We want to be the industry leader on the path to carbon neutrality and have since 1990 significantly reduced carbon footprint through a range of measures and target a reduction of 30% by 2025. This midterm target is complemented by our commitment to offer carbon neutral concrete by 2050 at the latest. Now, to be able to invest in low carbon breakthrough technologies such as carbon capture, the industry needs a positive investment climate. This includes a financial support for innovators and early movers and a CO2 infrastructure. The cooperation between public sector and industry will be key to achieve significant emission reduction, and the partnership between Heidelberg Cement and the Norwegian government is a great example of such cooperation, which has led to the ongoing implementation of the world's first full-scale carbon capture at a cement plant. Now, we have also entered into an MOU with Equinor and the Northern Light Infrastructure on Longship to further investigate the feasibility of hooking up to this infrastructure with other Heidelberg Cement plants across Europe. And we're currently performing a pre-feasibility for our plant in Sweden on the island of Gotland, which will capture as much as 4 to 5 times more CO2 than the ongoing project in Brevik.
In Equinor, we have an ambition of being climate neutral by 2050. And that really means that we will have to remove the same amount of CO2 from the atmosphere as is emitted from the use of our product. So in that context, CCS is a very important tool. And the good thing is that we are not starting from scratch. We have worked with CCS for many years, and we have implemented CCS at Sleipner and Snøhvit and gained 25 years of operational experience, which is quite unique. If you look at all the CCS projects in the world, there is only 3 that are offshore CCS projects, and 2 of them is Sleipner and Snøhvit. And for us, CCS it really has 3 pathways or 3 roles, if you like. So it is a tool for us to reduce the emissions from the production of oil and gas. And then it's also an enabler to produce large amount of hydrogen by reforming the gas to hydrogen and then combining it with CCS. And thirdly, it is a standalone business opportunity, we believe, where we can offer a transport and storage service to emitters that wants to capture their CO2 and need someone to take care of it. And that is what Northern Lights is really all about. And what we have learned from Northern Lights is that there is a lot of industries out there in need of this CO2 transport and storage service.
Thank you. Now, we've heard some rapid fire facts right now from the industry partners about the importance of this project and CCS for the industry in general. So it will be very interesting to hear from the International Energy Agency. How important is Longship for the deployment of CCS in your view, Samantha?
Well, thank you. I think Longship is really an incredibly important project for CCUS in Europe, but also globally. Our analysis at the IEA really highlights that CCUS plays a critical role in meeting long-term energy and climate goals. And we really need to scale up CCUS quite rapidly in the next decade if CCUS or if net zero goals are to be achieved. And for the Longship project in particular in Europe, I think the availability of a CO2 storage solution through the Northern Lights component of the project has really opened up the CCUS opportunity. CCUS has really shifted from being essentially a theoretical discussion to date to a real option for industrial emitters in the region. And really reflecting that, we've seen a huge increase in interest from a range of sectors in Europe. So from a global perspective, at the IEA, we've sought to really highlight the critical importance of CCUS, particularly in the cement sector. This is a sector that accounts for 7% of global emissions, and it's one where we have few scalable solutions outside of CCUS. So the Norcem project, as the first commercial application of CCUS to cement production, will be really a critical development, and the learnings and the experience of this project will be of huge interest internationally. And finally, I would suggest that the Longship project really provides a valuable model for CCUS investments in other regions of the world, including in places like Southeast Asia, where regional cooperation and shared CO2 transport and storage infrastructure really could support large-scale CCUS deployment.
Thank you. This means that we're looking at a very interesting future where many things can change and improve quite rapidly. And we've all seen some developments right now in different countries and their climate policies, and also in the European Union's carbon prices have risen above the 50 euro mark for the first time in this just earlier this May. So I would like to ask you all, in your opinion, what is the most critical development we need to see forward to support more industry investment in CCS or CCUS going forward? What is your opinion on that, Padme?
Sure, of course, and in regard to the CO2 price, as you said, it is now 50 euro per ton, and the expectation is that this price will go up as the EU tighten the emission regulations going forward, and of course it will reach to a point that it will pay for CCS eventually. However, having said this, in addition to the CO2 price, we really need to have a supporting financing mechanism, like Contract for Difference that is being developed now in the UK for carbon capture and hydrogen economy, and also for other incentives like SD++ in the Netherlands. So solely looking at the CO2 price would not be enough. We need to have really supporting financing mechanism to take this forward to the next level.
Well, I would say that CO2 price was mentioned, but first of all, I think that you actually need to have a global CO2 price. The issue right now is that we do have issues in Europe with carbon leakage, and working actively to try to put in place a carbon border adjustment mechanism that would be fair for the European industry to protect itself against carbon leaked imports from outside the ETS region. So one thing, of course, is how high should the CO2 price be for this for CCS to actually make financially sense and sound investment to the alternative. But having the right border adjustment mechanisms will also be an important factor moving forward.
So we've gained quite some insight on what are the industry's drivers for investment in CCS through the interactions we've had with a broad range of industries. And it is clear that ETS price is really driving it. When we started Northern Lights, I mean, at least in the early days of Northern Lights, the ETS price was €4 per ton, and now we see €50 per ton. So it is getting pretty expensive to emit CO2. But then we also see that there are a combination of drivers, such as industries putting up ambitions. They want to be part of the low carbon society. They are planning for that. They are expecting regulations. They see that there are a potential market for the low carbon products that they can provide. So there is kind of several drivers. And as we already have touched upon now, is that we also find it very clear that the establishment of an infrastructure is something that is necessary for they to do their investment, for the industry to do the investment in capture project. And when we decided the pipeline dimension on Northern Lights, which is transporting the CO2 from the receiving facilities at Kollsnes and to the injection point, there were really no industries lining up to use the Northern Lights facilities. And today, the Northern Lights is in conversations with more than 60 industries. And if you put all the CO2 from these different industries on top of each other, it actually amounts to 50 million tons a year and 10 times the capacity of the pipeline from Kollsnes. So I think that's in a way is proving that having the infrastructure in place is one of the critical factors that really must come in place for industry to invest in CCS.
And I can only agree, I think, with my fellow panelists. I think, you know, the higher carbon prices that we're seeing is one important factor behind the sort of momentum we see in Europe now for CCUS. But essentially, the carbon price alone is really unlikely to pull through the investment that we need in CCUS at the sort of scale and the pace required to meet climate goals. The first few projects will need targeted support, and whether that's, you know, direct support as we're seeing in Norway, but also the UK, or schemes such as the SDE++ in the Netherlands. You know, these more targeted measures will be needed for CCUS in the short term. And then, you know, as we get closer to 2030, perhaps you could see the carbon price taking over and playing a stronger role. I would absolutely agree that in terms of what is most critical, having the incentives in place to support the investment in transport and storage infrastructure, recognising that this is part of the CCUS value chain that really tends to have longer lead times, and that we're seeing already with the Northern Lights project in particular, that having the infrastructure available can really garner significant interest in terms of CCUS investments in capture facilities. So I think having the infrastructure available and moving quickly on infrastructure will be the priority.
Well, thank you. I would love to dive even deeper into this with all of you guys, but we have to move on in the program. So thank you very much for your contributions. Now let us explore the initiative for accelerating CCUS technologies. First, we will hear from Ragnhild Rønneberg, the coordinator for ACT, the funding scheme and collaboration on CCUS projects and knowledge sharing.
My name is Ragnhild Rønneberg. I'm the coordinator of ACT at the Research Council of Norway. ACT is an initiative for research and innovation and consists of 16 countries, regions and provinces collaborating on transnational calls and knowledge sharing within the CCUS domain. ACT was established in 2016 with 10 funding partners from 9 European countries, and we were granted funds from the European Commission. This mainly for undertaking transnational calls of high quality, but also for capitalizing on knowledge sharing within this important area. Since 2018, the consortium has expanded within Europe, but also new partners from US, Canada and India has joined. And this is very, very helpful. And now we can say that ACT is a global initiative. So what we basically do is fund research and innovation projects that can lead to cost-effective CCUS technologies to be developed and deployed within the energy, power sector and within a number of other industry sectors. The ACT partners collaborate on joint transnational calls within the focus, which is expressed in emission innovation research priorities, but also in alignment with the set plan implementation. By this approach, we are able to cover basic science research up to innovation research projects, and thereby also covering a broad range on the TRL scale. We have completed 3 successful calls. For the 2 first, we have invested close to 70 million euros in 20 projects. And it's very, very interesting to see that several of these projects have high industry participation, either as in-kind or as direct cash contribution. Our 3rd call, which now is under external review, will be decided and concluded funding in June this year. ACT is a very easy, very flexible and partner-driven funding scheme, and it's a great place for sharing and exchanging ideas, but with the ultimate goal to make CCUS a commercially viable low-carbon technology, which is important in the transition to a low-carbon economy. Results already achieved from our work and from the projects have played a significant and important role in various industries, but has also been important in policy making and various policy approach in Europe and beyond Europe. And this is very, very important to take notice of, that this is something We do something, not only talk. So our results are being implemented, which is very, very helpful. Of course, this cannot be done by one country or one partner only. So the international cooperation is a key factor in this approach. Research, development, and innovation are critical in order to reach the climate goals. And we will highlight and very much welcome new partners to join our ACT initiative and also the work ahead of us, where we now are developing and framing the Clean Energy Transition Partnership under Horizon Europe. But Horizon Europe also opens up for other partners to join this, partners outside Europe. So a number of CCUS topics will be addressed in our work ahead, and these topics will be very important in order to meet the climate goals. Finally, I would like to address a great thanks to the whole ACT family and the team around us. The great family of partners and the projects and hundreds of scientists and very dedicated people from the industry who take part in this development and make sure that research and results from the work is being implemented and will play a significant role in the carbon neutral societies. Thank you so much for your attention.
Now, international cooperation is a key success factor of ACT. Now, we have gathered a panel of representatives from some of the countries to shed some light on just how important this is for the development and the deployment of CCUS technologies across the world. From the UK, we have Hannah Lord. She has worked on the internationally focused CCUS ACT grant program since 2018, and in 2021 she became the UK's national contact at Department for Business, Energy and Industrial Strategy for ACT. From India, we have Nilima Alam from the Department of Science and Technology. Since April 2012, she has been leading two prominent programs, the Carbon Capture Utilization and Sequestration Program and Water Technology Initiative at the Technology Mission Division. From the Netherlands, we have Joël Rekkers at the Dutch Ministry of Economic Affairs and Climate Policy. Joël is heading a multidisciplinary team on CCS, working on the development and implementation of CCS policies and projects in the Netherlands. From Romania, we have Nicoleta Dumitrache. She is head of Financing, Development and Innovation Projects Department at the Romanian Executive Agency for Higher Education, Research, Development and Innovation Funding. From Germany, we have Heiko Gerause. He has since 2015 been at PTJ, the Research Management Jülich. Among other research management tasks he is the main responsible for writing the texts of the ACT calls. From the United States of America, we have Mark Akievich. He is the director for the Division of Emissions Control and Carbon Capture, Utilization and Storage, Research and Development at the Department of Energy. That is the department which in 2004 signed the Memorandum of Understanding between Norway and the United States of America on, among other things, CCUS research, development and demonstration. And finally, from Norway, we have Rune Wolle. He's the director of the Department for Energy Research at the Research Council of Norway. He is the Research Council's representative in the ACT steering group, and he serves at the board of Nordic Energy Research and Energy 21 in Norway. Now let's dive right into the conversation. So we have quite the panel here today with several very interesting actors from several very interesting countries. So we will start with the United Kingdom. Hannah, why was it important for your country to take part in established ACT more than 5 years ago?
Hi, yeah, thank you and welcome. Thank you for inviting me to the panel. So in 2015, the UK was made aware that a group of European countries led by Norway were looking to develop a collaborative programme on CCUS innovation. This concept was appealing for us for a number of reasons, such as UK academia and industry had participated in previous European framework programmes focusing on CCS, and these projects had demonstrated that there are particular types of projects that are very well suited to this type of multi-partner collaboration. By funding both UK and internationally focused programme, this would allow project developers to choose which funding programme they're most suited to for their projects. If I can, I'd like to give some examples of this. International programmes were suited to subject areas like CO2 transport and storage, where expertise and interest spanned multiple countries, or university-led development of lower TRL technologies. And UK programmes were suited to areas where UK wanted to develop IP, or where the UK had already had leadership in the technology area. We felt that CCUS was a very suitable subject to demonstrate how international collaboration on energy innovation might be achievable, and if successful, would allow this to be replicated to other fields of energy innovation. Of the 8 Act 1 projects, the UK CCUS partners were involved in 5, and for the running Act 2 projects, the UK is involved in 10 of the 12, and we're excited to be able to support further projects from the current Act 3 call. We feel that we're achieving the goals and ambitions, and we are very much looking forward to future and further collaboration in the good spirit of ACT and all that it embellishes.
Thank you, Anna. Now, ACT started out as a European initiative, but it has been significantly strengthened by partners from other parts of the world. So I'm curious to hear from India now. Nilima, why did your organization join ACT?
Thank you very much. India is working for widespread development and deployment of accelerating CCUS technologies through national capacity building interventions, as well as knowledge sharing, leveraging skills and capabilities through the international cooperation, both in bilateral as well as multilateral mode. In national perspective, a strong need has been felt to continue the RD and D activities in the area of CCUS, and effective global cooperation between researchers for best practices has been identified as one of the best tools to accelerate these mechanisms. So for accelerating and maturing CCUS technologies through targeted innovation and research activities in the country, Department of Science and Technology recently, on behalf of India, has joined this ACT Accelerating CCUS Technologies program through its 3rd call for proposals. As we know that ACT model is a fit-for-purpose, partner-driven, flexible, multinational mechanism that offers flexibility to participating countries to identify and allows focus on research programs tailored to the country's need. On behalf of India, we hope that the ACT program will be helpful for the development of the CCUS technologies and also to prepare a future roadmap for the country for implementing the developed solutions, as well as to meet the climate change mitigation goals of the country. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And it's interesting to hear the added value of international cooperation and how that is important. So let's hear more from the Netherlands. Joël, what results have ACT delivered that you could not have achieved without ACT in the Netherlands?
Yeah, thank you, Christopher, for the question and also for having us on the panel. There are actually 3 ways in which ACT contributes to for the Netherlands that we could not have achieved otherwise. The first of all is that ACT brings together the international expertise and also the excellence from around the world. For example, the DETECT project, it brings together the experts on the issue of the risk mitigation for CO2 leakages, which is very relevant for the projects that we are developing right now, like the Portals project. I think the second way ACT delivers is that it generates mass or momentum and visibility through collaboration. Like a project as a line, a very large project that brings together top research community from different countries, and is also able to disseminate the results in different ways, also reaching a much wider public than usually. Another example of a very good project is the Elegancy projects that also connected, for example, to the European Parliament, discussing the blue hydrogen and the role of CCS in there. The third way is that ACT also provides access to research facilities that we do not have in our own country. For example, Succeed is one of the projects where we work together with research facilities in Turkey and Iceland that we would not have been able to access otherwise. So these are just three important examples of how ACT really delivers on the research advancement in the Netherlands, and I'm sure also for other countries. And we're very much looking forward for the project for the third round of ACT and continuing to build on these results and the international platform for CCS.
Thank you. Now, part of the goal of ACT is, of course, to accelerate CCS technologies, but also the deployment of these technologies. So let's hear from Romania. What is the contribution of ACT in bringing CCUS closer to deployment in your own country? Nicoleta.
Thank you, Christopher, for the question. At our network level, as you know, Romania was the first smaller CCS country to join ACT. We also joined all three calls, and we are happy to have projects funded in the first two and now projects submitted in the last call, which is now under evaluation. Since there is no dedicated calls at national level, deployment at project level was very important. This is why we have submissions. And at project level, participation in ACT projects increased Romanian knowledge in specific CCUS fields like CO2, EOR, infrastructure reviews, assessment, and gave the opportunity to work with international experts and with the tools developed by prestigious research centers. Participation in ACT also stimulated us to establish and maintain a good connection with national stakeholders through meetings and workshops. Opening this channel of communication with different stakeholders from different countries and now from around the world and raising awareness is very important for the deployment of CCUS in our country. Thank you for it.
Well, thank you. Now, Germany is in a particular position here since you have some specific attitudes in your country towards storage on German soil. So, Heiko, what implications have the collaboration within ACT had for the R&D community and the industry in Germany, given the stand against storage in Germany?
Thank you for this not so easy to answer question. There's certainly a substantial amount of expertise and knowledge related to CCUS in Germany, from small companies working on sensors to large engineering conglomerates. Participating in international projects covering the whole CCUS chain is a great opportunity to apply and maintain and further develop that knowledge and expertise in the country. And ACT is greatly appreciated in Germany as an opportunity to get good projects in the CCUS field off the ground. It is about getting things done. It's not just about talking. And what can certainly be said is that particularly for CCUS, international collaboration is particularly fruitful. And in the case of Germany, indeed, the restrictions on geological storage are one reason that international collaboration is particularly helpful for us.
Thank you. It was a very huge stepping stone for the ACT program when the United States joined from across the seas. But how does a country like the US benefit from a collaboration with a European initiative such as ACT? And what impact does it have, both nationally and in an international context, Mark?
Thanks. So collaborations like ACT are useful and beneficial in many ways, even for a country like the United States. First, it provides a venue to exchange ideas and different viewpoints with world-leading scientists and engineers. This can lead to exciting discoveries and technological advancements on the CCUS. Collaborations like ACT also provide opportunities to learn and leverage resources and capabilities, whether those are testing facilities, analytical tools that exist with our global partners. Innovation is happening all around the world, and ACT provides an opportunity for the United States to plug into that innovation cycle, and in this case, particularly on CCUS. ACT also provides a mechanism to showcase the United States investments, capabilities, and facilities, and also to highlight the U.S. commitment to CCUS to a global audience. To accelerate CCUS on a global scale, sharing knowledge, collaboration, and partnerships are critical, and it's important for the United States to be part of that process. Ultimately, collaboration through ACT can lead to better research results that are achieved more quickly, efficiently, and cost-effectively. And this benefits all partners, not just the US, in our global race to address climate change. So, thank you.
Well, thank you. It's interesting to hear about the value of cooperation. Let's hear from Norway. Is the networking in ACT valuable for CCUS stakeholders in Norway, Rune?
Yes, definitely. CCUS has been a high priority in Norway for many years, but both development and the deployment, of course, have to happen in more and larger countries than Norway to be a powerful climate mitigation tool. So ACT has been an important catalyst to create large international networks of CCUS experts and for large CCUS R&D projects for us. Actually, the need for a good project collaboration platform was one of the main reasons for taking the initiative to apply to the EU Commission for this co-funded AeroNet together with our partners back in 2016.
Thank you. And thank you all for joining us in the conversation today. It's a great example of international collaboration, both in the field of research and in the field of dissemination and communication. So thank you very much. We will now hear more about the role of CCUS in the European Union from Vasilios Kouginouas, the Senior Project Officer at the European Commission, who has also served as the main contact point for ACT. He has played a significant role in addressing CCUS as a major climate vector at the European Commission level and in the context of mission innovation activities.
So CCUS will play a crucial role in the European Green Deal, in particular for the transition of energy-intensive industries and the power sector towards climate neutrality. The EU policies that are relevant to CCUS are the EU climate law aiming for climate neutrality by 2050, the climate target plan for 55% CO2 reductions by 2030, the energy system integration and the hydrogen strategy, the Connecting Euro facility, the CCS directive, the emissions trading scheme and the innovation fund, and the recently established European Sustainable Taxonomy includes CCS. The European Strategic Energy Technology Plan has put forward very ambitious targets for the deployment of CCUS in Europe by 2030, in line with the European Green Deal. Under our new research and innovation program, the Horizon Europe, we aim to fund demonstration of the full CCUS chain in industrial facilities, reducing the cost of CO2 capture and ensure CO2 safe storage. We will also support the integration of CCUS in hydrogen production facilities, the bio-CCS towards negative emissions, and the CO2 utilization. Under Horizon 2020, one of the most important initiatives on CCUS funded by the European Commission was the ACT AeroNet. ACT was very successful in establishing CCUS as a tool to combat climate change. It has attracted funding globally and has organized 3 successful calls. It has served as the vehicle for Mission Innovation Challenge 3 to fund 20 multinational projects in the first 2 calls, and it has served as an example to other Mission Innovation Challenges. The European Commission will continue to support this initiative under Horizon Europe under the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. Under this partnership, collaboration could continue with emission innovation countries, such as, for example, within the carbon dioxide removal mission under preparation. Thank you.
Now we will hear more about some of the innovative projects that have resulted from the ACT initiative so far. First off is the Align CCUS. To guide us through the project, we have Peter van Os, a senior project manager at TNO in the Netherlands, on various projects concerning gas treatment with a focus on CO2 capture.
Hello everybody, I'm Peter van Os. I'm working as a project manager at TNO. I'm the coordinator of Align. Align stands for Accelerating Low Carbon Industrial Growth through CCUS. It's one of the projects in the first ACT round and comprises 29 partners from the Netherlands, United Kingdom, Germany, Norway and Romania. And we had one associated partner from Germany. The working budget was around 21 million and we had a funding of 40 million from ACT. The objective of Align was to develop blueprints for decarbonizing industrial clusters in the participating countries. And here I have a picture of the countries that were participating in Align and the industrial regions that were the topic for the decarbonization. And for instance, in North Rhine-Westphalia, we focused on utilization, and in a lot of the other countries, we focused on storage possibilities and how to capture the CO2 from these industrial clusters. Align was structured around 6 work packages along the whole CCUS chain. So we have work package 1 on capture, where we looked at emissions and solvent management. Work package 2 looking at transport options. Work package 3 around storage and everything that goes with it. Work package 4 around utilization, so making fuel out of CO2 and hydrogen. In work package 5, all the results came together to develop those blueprints. And in work package 6, we looked at the societal impact of implementing CCUS in the countries. Here I list the main achievements of the projects. There are of course many achievements. We have made many projects, many reports in the project, and a lot of the reports are publicly available on our website, alignccus.eu. So some of the main achievements are around the capture part, that we had the most testing hours ever in one project. We tested 2 solvents for 18 months on a coal-fired power plant in Germany. We made new standards and solutions for CO2 shipping and CO2 injection. We made a new way to indicate the storage readiness levels of storage sites. That is a bit comparable to the technology readiness levels when you make systems. We had a very ambitious and large-scale demonstration of CO2 utilization, where we made a fuel out of CO2 and hydrogen. All these results came together in the work package where we developed those blueprints. And we had a very big project on the social impact of CCUS in the participating countries. There's many advantages to be part of ACT. I listed here a few. So I think we were able to work with the best brains on the specific topics of the CCUS chains in Europe. Different cultures also brings different insights. This is also an advantage for the project. And ACT really functions as a family. So everybody knows each other and it's very easy to contact either the funders or the other coordinators of the projects to exchange thoughts and ideas. ACT is also expanding. In the first call, we only had European countries. In the second one, the USA joined. And in the third one, besides the USA, also Canada and India joined. And I think to meet the climate goals, international cooperation is essential. So I hope that in the future, more countries will join ACT and we can work together on reaching the climate goals and to reducing our CO2 emissions. That was my short overview of Align CCUS, and I thank you for your attention.
Next up is the project Elegancy, enabling low carbon economy via hydrogen and CCS. It is Sven Tollak Munkejord who will guide us. He is a chief scientist in multi-phase flow modeling at SINTEF Energy Research, and he will give us the most important insights on this project.
Hello everyone and welcome to this presentation of Elegancy, enabling a low carbon economy via hydrogen and CCS. My name is Sven Tollak Munkejord. I work at SINTEF in Trondheim in Norway, and I'd like to give an overview of the project. Elegancy was conceived because we need to speed up CCS deployment. As you know, the low carbon economy needs CCS as a key technology in order to abate CO2 emissions in various sectors, including industry. The idea of combining CCS with hydrogen has been catching on lately, but it wasn't as popular 4 years ago when we wrote the project proposal. In any case, the low-carbon economy also needs hydrogen as a low-carbon energy vector, which can be put to good use in applications such as in heating, cooling, in various industrial processes, and in the transportation system. Combining hydrogen with CCS offers opportunities for synergies and value creation, and in particular, it can provide the necessary volumes to start full-scale CCS deployment, and it can therefore also bring value to CCS, because energy is something everyone needs. This slide shows an overview of the project. It had 22 highly competent partners from research and industry, and the project was built around a technical core, as you can see here, with 2 main topics. The first was the hydrogen supply, including hydrogen CO2 separation, and the second was CO2 transport, injection and storage. And both of those subjects were attacked from 2 sides, from the experimental side and the modeling side. And such a dual approach is necessary for us in order to arrive at firm results, that is, that can help engineers assign numbers to things. And around the technical core, we had a big activity on developing hydrogen CCS chain tool and evaluation methodologies for integrated chains. And there was also a work package on business case development and legal aspects, and we had activities on social acceptance and environmental aspects, in particular life cycle analysis. One special thing about Elegancy was the case studies. They were tailor-made for the conditions and interests in each of the participating countries, the UK, Switzerland, Norway, Germany and the Netherlands. And the conclusion of all this was, yes, we can. So hydrogen can be delivered at scale, fast-tracking the 2020 net zero emission goals. Hydrogen produced from renewable energy and natural gas with CCS will be needed. CCS is an efficient and safe way to eliminate CO2 emissions. And the hydrogen pathway needs financial, regulatory and political frameworks. We produced a wealth of technical results, including this one on dynamic CO2 injection. I can't go into details, but there is a lot to find on our project website. And the conclusion is that Elegancy has helped fast-tracking the decarbonization of Europe's energy system by combining CCS and hydrogen, by overcoming specific scientific, technological and economic legal barriers, and by undertaking 5 national case studies adapted to the conditions in the partner countries. One thing that I like to mention is that we put particular attention on communication, and you can see a picture here from a meeting we had in the European Parliament. With that, I'd like to thank you for your attention.
We will now hear from the PRISMA project from Susana Garcia. She is an associate professor in chemical engineering and deputy head of the Institute of Mechanical, Process and Energy Engineering at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, United Kingdom.
Hello everyone, I'm Susana Garcia, the coordinator of the PRISMA project. I'm here today at the research laboratories of the Research Centre for Carbon Solutions that is located at Heriot-Watt University in Edinburgh, UK. The PRISMA project aims to accelerate the transition of energy and industrial sectors to a low-carbon economy. And in order to do so, we have united a world-leading team of experts from here, the team at Heriot-Watt, from EPFL and ETH Zurich in Switzerland, from Syntephenolly Research in Norway, and from Lawrence Berkeley National Lab in the United States. The PRISMA project contributes to the deployment of CCUS technologies by providing a technology platform to tailor-make carbon capture solutions for a series of CO2 sources and CO2 destinations. Reducing CO2 emissions to the atmosphere is a global problem. And as such, we do require an international effort to ensure that we can reduce our CO2 emissions. The ACT program has enabled to bring together the team of international experts that is required to bridge the gap between molecular sciences and process engineering. We are fully committed to disseminate our findings to the general public and the different stakeholders, because this is a global challenge that we all need to contribute to. We are very proud of all our outreach activities, and I would like to play now a video where we showcase what we do in Prisma. I hope you like it, and I hope that between all of us, we solve this huge problem. Thank you.
You may know already that the stars that you see up in the sky at night are the factory of all elements in the universe. Elements like carbon, oxygen, and many others that are the building blocks of the molecules essential to life, including carbon dioxide, also known as CO2. Did you know that there are more molecules in 1 kilogram of CO2 than stars in the universe? And that every single day, millions of tons of CO2 are released to the atmosphere? That is a lot of molecules. CO2 is a very damaging greenhouse gas, and it is responsible for one of the greatest challenges humanity is facing: global warming. Over time, man-made CO2 sources have become the largest emitters of CO2 and must be drastically reduced. However, CO2 is very difficult to capture. The Prisma project is here to accelerate the transition to a low-carbon economy. We are developing a technology platform for capturing CO2 from different sources and either utilize it as a source of carbon or store it in geological formations. In Prisma, we use supercomputers to screen thousands of different new materials, predicting their properties and ranking their performance. The best candidates are synthesized in the lab, and we test their performance according to the intended carbon capture application. This methodology allows us to accelerate the discovery of new materials in a cost-effective way, providing tailored capture technologies for all CO2 sources and destinations. Through collaboration with different industries, the next step will be to demonstrate how the most promising materials behave in real-life conditions. Our materials will then be rolled out to the world to tackle global warming.
Finally, we will be introduced to the Succeed project by Professor Sevket Durkan, who is the project manager and who also holds the chair in mining and environmental engineering at Imperial College.
Good morning. This will be a very brief presentation of our Succeed project. A very brief background on the project and its objectives and current status. Succeed is an industrial CO2 storage project aiming at utilizing the existing infrastructure at 2 producing geothermal fields in Turkey and in Iceland. We aim to research and demonstrate the feasibility of utilizing produced carbon dioxide for reinjection into a carbonate reservoir in Turkey and maintain the reservoir pressure, improve geothermal performance, and also store the CO2. We will also be looking at developing further and testing and demonstrating innovative monitoring technologies applicable to all CO2 storage sites. The project partners are Imperial College and 7 other partners from Turkey, the Netherlands, Iceland, and Italy. The Kızıldere site is in Western Turkey, operated by Zorlu Energy, and they produce about 7,000 tons per hour of geothermal fluid and re-inject the spent fluid back to the reservoir from 24 wells. The Helishidi site is operated by Reykjavik Energy with 303 megawatt energy installed capacity, producing about 4,500 tons per hour of geothermal fluid from 61 wells and re-injecting 3,800 tons of this back to the reservoir. Re-injection of carbon dioxide at Helishidi has been running since 2014 under the Carbfix project, and current injection rates are approximately 12,000 tons per annum. Our field work started at Kızıldere, and using the tracer data, we decided on 1 injection and 2 observation wells in the field. Downhole engineered fibers for the 2 monitoring wells were dispatched, and we also decided at the position of the helically wound cable on the surface for monitoring purposes. The DAS technology and the Carina innovation will be implemented by Silixa on the site. Fieldwork at Helioscides started in December 2019. In July 2020, we have installed the surface fiber optic cable on site and started monitoring, and 6-week-long passive seismic survey had given successful results. Both sites will also be using our 10 kilonewton Succeed EM vibrator as the seismic source. The project has high international collaboration. Besides the 8 partners of the Succeed project from the countries that are involved, we also have a joint data acquisition agreement between 2 Aeronet projects, Succeed from ACT and Deepen in Geothermica, and these projects are working in Iceland together, monitoring both south and north of the Hengil volcano. We have already published 5 papers jointly between the partners. Thank you for your attention.
This concludes our side event on carbon capture, utilization and storage. Now, I hope you all learned the importance of international collaboration for the development and deployment of CCUS and how vital this is as an engine for mission innovation. Now, Longship is basically in the waters, so this is an exciting time to participate in developing CCUS internationally. On behalf of the US Department of Energy, the Norwegian Ministry of Petroleum and Energy, Gassnova and ACT, I would like to thank everyone for your participation and everyone who has contributed to interesting talks and presentations. So please join us if you want to develop and deploy CCUS going forward. Do not hesitate to contact any of us, and please have a very nice day.